Hey guys, welcome back to the Max Spence Business Podcast. Today I have a very special guest, but before I jump into that, if you guys like the content I'm putting out, please like, subscribe, leave a review. It helps out a ton with the podcast and also the people that are coming on the show. If you can go over to Apple Podcast and leave a review, that helps out a ton as well. So without further ado, today's guest is Milan. So he's the CEO of TK Financial Group and Inner Orbis. He has been running TK Financial for almost 35 years, which is absolutely crazy because that's 15 years longer than I've been alive. He's also played in the Canadian Football League for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, which I was like really interested in. So, thank you for coming on the show, Milan.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. So, why don't we just start from the beginning? Where did you grow up? Where did you go to university? What was your first job out of university?
Sure. I grew up in a little village in Croatia, literally dirt floor, one kitchen stove, outhouse, water outside. So that was my first 8 years of my life, growing up, basically working with the farm as a little kid. Then we ended up coming to Canada, a place called Acton, Ontario. I lived there with my parents 2 years, and then we were all in a car accident, head-on accident, where my parents ended up dying. I became an orphan, moved to Hamilton, Ontario, not knowing anybody. The saving grace was I was very active in sports, track, basically baseball, soccer, 7 days a week. So it helped me because there were nobody there to help you with the mental part of it. So I kept busy. My first year, I did wrestling, track, football, basketball, and soccer. Those were the sports in grade 9 that I played. And then eventually I decided in grade 10, I wanted to play pro football after actually learning the game in grade 9. And then I ended up, I had scholarships in US, Cornell, Syracuse, Bucknell, Florida State, but decided because of some personal issues to stay in Canada. And subsequently, I went to University of Ottawa, where I played for 3 years, was drafted by Winnipeg Blue Bombers, played a couple of years in the CFL, had to make a decision, no money, no real future, second to second. If you get injured, it's a tough deal in those days. There was no compensation. And I decided, well, I'm going to get in the insurance business. I knew nothing about insurance, but I also decided, okay, who do I want to have as clients? Business owners and professionals. So why those? Because they have real issues. So what I did is I educated myself on everything that has to do with business, trusts, power of attorneys, wills, all that. So when I meet a client, yes, they may meet me originally on an insurance situation, insurance planning, but it evolves to something else. So over the years, we currently have about 700 clients from, starting here to big level. And you know what? Everybody has the same issues. My clients always are looking to basically preserve their wealth, leave it to the next generation. So understanding business aspects, I did my family business advising course with STEP. Everything else is basically geared to that individual, to the business person. So what they expect from me, well, I expect of myself, is to give them more. So sometimes they meet me and they'll say, hey, Milan, I need $2 million of insurance for shareholder funding. And I'll say, wait a minute, have you thought about a trust? So often clients will send me their shareholders agreement for a review. Like recently, there was a section in there happened to be dealing with death and disability. Everything was on death and nothing. What happens if one of the shareholders becomes disabled? So I don't want to be a lawyer. I'm not a lawyer. Some people have said that I'm like a family office. I'm not. You can create your own family office. And my book, Beyond the Tipping Point, will show you how, from your advisory team and bringing in specialists when required, you can create your own planning process. And that's my passion. So how does the insurance fit in? Think of it as a pot of cash. Something happens, you get sick. What the heck happens? Well, I bring a pair, whatever amount, $1 million, $500,000, $3 million. I've settled some very, very big files because of the clients we deal with. So the difference with the money, it doesn't replace the person. Or let's say you get sick and you got critical illness or disability insurance. Well, it ensures that no matter what, you're going to be okay. So my passion with the business owners, they're often buying things in silos. Like they'll do their wills, but they won't look at the whole picture planning. And that involves your wills, your business structure, your insurance, your investments, your banking. So that's my passion. I'm very passionate about that.
Awesome. Yeah. So a few things I picked up from there that I thought were really interesting. Talking about the one being pretty much playing like professional soccer, which I thought was really, really interesting. And then the other was, talking about building those teams. I'll talk about the professional soccer first. So I just want to sort of hear, like, what was your, what were your takeaways from playing that sport, and then deciding at that point to leave? Because I've heard from other people in the Ottawa area, like the Red Blacks, the hat I'm wearing here, it's hard to actually make money in the Canadian sporting industry, right? It's like in the US, you don't make, like, I mean, over in the US, you make a lot more, but I've heard stories about CFL guys, still working a regular job and also playing, football on the side, which that's crazy, right? But yeah, just like what were the best takeaways from being in that very like competitive professional environment?
So I basically played soccer 7 days a week and decided not to play professional in grade 11. I played soccer, basketball, all these sports for football because it helps your footwork. So when it came to football, you have an idea. I have friends that played in the NFL. I have friends that play currently on the Red Blacks. Guys have coached. I've coached football 15 years in the Ottawa League, Ontario League, and 1 year at university. So a great guy, Alex Mateus, who's the center. Brendan Galanders. I coached all those guys. And so I'm still in touch with them. In the CFL, the problem is unless you're at the top, i.e. the quarterback, these other positions like the center, those days you didn't get paid much. So to give you an idea, when I played in Winnipeg my first year, the Dieter Brock, the quarterback, was making in one game what I was making all year. So you sit there and you get there to play football and you say, okay, this is going to be cool. I'm going to have a lot of fun. But then you quickly realize, well, okay, I had another job while I was playing in Winnipeg. And even in the CFL right now, you can't survive on one salary. So like you play while your season's on. Well, what do you do for an encore? Alex is now with Cushfield LePage in commercial real estate. Being the fact that we're still friends, I was able to introduce him to Nathan Smith, the owner, the key guy at Cushfield. So now basically, as I always tell people, as Alex, I ended up mentoring him, telling you, listen, move on with this. Not that you're leaving football, but make the most of it. So again, athletes are amazing people to work with. As far as sales, they're probably one of the best. Why? Because they get knocked down, they get picked up, they keep going, because that's the nature of the sport. So to me, as a former athlete, I just took what I learned in athletics to business, to sales. Grind. If you saw my screensaver, it says relentless. That's my screensaver to remind me. Why relentless? Because it's not easy, especially the services we provide. Because when I talk to people about estate planning, why don't you want to do your estate? I don't think I'm rich enough. I don't want to think about dying or becoming sick. Those are two components. And the third one is family dynamics. Oh my God, I got one son in the business and a daughter in the business. The son thinks he should be the one to take over. Well, it's really the daughter. So that's where that business advising comes in. So the idea of football is basically to keep going, keep bobbing and weaving. I call it, the pandemic hit. So, I tell my clients what it's like. It's like a boxer. You get hit, you get back up, keep going. So that's my mentality. Mm-hmm. And I've been able to take that to the next level by building a huge network. So let's say, you want to buy a car, Ford, Mercedes, Honda. I've got connections at all of those dealerships, so I can introduce you. You want to buy renovations, you want to get renovations, upper end, Astro Design. You want this. So what I do is, it's not just the core business taking care of clients, but what else can I do for them? How else can I help them? I've arranged surgeries for people that had a long waiting. I know the sports surgeon, so I would call him. He said, "Hey, no problem, Milan. Get him to call my secretary. Tell him 4:00 Thursday, double book." Okay. So the idea is, like that book, Who Not How. Who do you know? Who's in your Rolodex? And you'd be surprised who's in it. As far as in terms of who, Rolodex is the old word. Now you know how old I am. Who's in your SRM system? So basically so the idea is, who do you know that you can help and can help you? Now with pandemic, people are going, "Oh my God." No, wait a minute. Contact people. That's what I do. "Hey, how are you? I'm not selling you anything. Is there anything you need?"
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Those are great points. First off, I want to actually apologize. I know that I was saying soccer. Sorry, I was in the
that's okay.
I was in the UK for a bit, and football, soccer is the same thing. So in
Ooh,
my because over there they call it they call soccer football, and then here it's soccer, right? In Canada, right? But anyway, I got that
in Croatia. From where I'm from, it's the same. So they always, when I was over there telling them I play football, they thought it was, I said, no, football, Canadian football. Oh, they said, "That's not football. Our football's football."
Yeah. Yeah, that's it's the same thing in the UK. That's exactly what they say. But yeah, moving forward, and yeah, like you were saying with professional athletes, a lot of them are actually, like a lot of them actually translate into excellent business leaders. And I really think that's because of just like you said, that relentlessness, right? The relentless pursuit of excellence in your career path, of always trying to get better and working very, very hard, and taking that skill and transferring it over to business, like you're going to absolutely crush. So now talking about, TK Financial and starting that company, how did that sort of happen? Like, did you always have aspirations of, starting your own company, starting your own business, and sort of how did that sort of like evolve?
Well, you're going to laugh because I finished my career with the Ottawa Rough Riders. So I knew that I had to start a new career. So a guy that knew a manager at London Life introduced me to him. So I had a suit that I wanted to bring to this meeting at this restaurant. It was called Villa Roma, across from the stadium. So now I didn't want to put on a suit at the stadium because the guys would be ribbing me, for it. So what I did is I went to Villa Roma in the washroom, changed as a manager. I'm like 325 in a little cubicle, putting a suit on to impress this guy that's interviewing me. And so I said, okay, I didn't know anything about life insurance. I didn't know anything. I used to pick up premiums in Sandy Hill from little old ladies, because the system in London Life at the time was go pick up a premium, sign in a little book, bring it back to the office. But I would do that in the mornings. In the afternoons, I was meeting business people and turbo boosted myself to learning issues with business. Then after a number of years, I said, I want to go and do a business my own. And that's the problem, is there's no training. I had no mentorship. I had nobody that what we do and say, "Oh, you need a business coach?" Like my coach is currently Rhapsody Strategies, Eric Deschamps. So I said, boom, there's them. A number of my clients have gone to them for coaching. So when you don't know, or you get an accountant and he or she just does your books till year end and says, "Hey, by the way, you got this much tax." No, the people. So I didn't have any of that. So that's where this idea of Inner Orbis started. But it started off at TK Financial. I had an insurance division, which I still do. I had a group insurance division, which we sold to JLT, a public company in England. So we're pretty big. We had a big block. We had an investment division. We sold that off. So I decided to always focus on insurance and estate planning. So that was my thing. So I trained myself. I went to family business advising with STEP, Society of Estate Planners, went to that, got that certificate. and everything else had to do with business owners. So my clients are business owners, professional, and in the Jewish community, I have lots of clients. Why? Because I love the way they think. They're progressive in a sense, thinking of the next generation. Now, if you don't have anybody to think about, you don't need insurance. You don't, whatever. You have a will, you have this, great. But if you have, and business owners, you either building a business for your family, for the next generation, or to sell. So when it comes, let's say you're selling a business. Well, I have people that are specialists in selling businesses, M&A, mergers and acquisitions. So you say, Milan, who should I talk to? As somebody did the other day, I said, well, here, talk to these guys. So the idea started off initially, and it still is. We do tons of insurance business, but it's not in isolation. It's about planning. Planning. So, you've got a business. Well, okay, I have shareholders. What do I need? What should I have? So what clients like about me is, it's like one lawyer said, he says, you know everything about business. You know everything, what needs to be done, and you know who to bring in when it's required. So that's, you evolve. And so am I passionate? Yeah. And do I want to get better? Yeah. Why do I listen to at least one book a week and read articles constantly? And it's on tax, estate planning, the whole thing. Why? Because I want to be more and do more. My clients deserve it.
Ah, okay. Yeah, no, like that's absolutely amazing. So talking about insurance, what sort of made you want to go into that industry over like did you sort of just stumble across it and found you had a passion for learning about this type of business, all the ins and outs and stuff? And like from what I've heard so far, it's like you pretty much know a lot about everything from business, and you're really good
That's
at
right.
connecting people to the right person at the right time, which is actually crucial for any business, right? Whether it's a real estate
Yes.
agent, insurance, let's say if they're selling or whatever else, right? Like, so talking about that natural progression, how did you sort of find your passion after the CFL?
Well, it was by fate. Just somebody introduced me to a guy named Bob Riche with London Life, and I knew nothing about insurance. Now, I've never sold an investment in my life. I owned an investment firm. I refer clients now to three different sources, four sources. Let's say you have money and you say, I want an investment advisor. I say, what kind of advisor are you looking for? So it's matching personalities, but insurance became, and by fate, if you look at the fact that I lost my parents and they were immigrants, they didn't speak English, they have no will, so I had to go through Children's Aid to get adopted by my only relative in country, my uncle. There was really no insurance there. So even while I was at Ottawa U, I would play football on a Saturday, and Saturday night, if we were in town, I worked at a disco at the university as a bouncer. When there was time to put the school desks for exams, I'd get the call. Do you want to do it? Sure. So the insurance business, what it does, it provides cash. So initially, when you start off, you read books about what insurance does, and it's all hypothetical, right? So you go, okay. But the first time you deliver your check and you're sitting there for an hour and a half with a widow, she's crying, you're crying. Because I say to people, I can smash up my cars, go to the dealership next day and get a new car. I'll go to Star Motors, they'll give me a new car. Okay. The problem is when it comes to human beings, that doesn't work the same. So if you get sick, I take it upon myself to make sure that I've given you the right insurance planning along the way. So do I get passionate about it? Friggin' right. Now, people that don't know me, sometimes they say, well, it's aggressive. No, I can tell you what happens when you don't do it, because I get these calls. People say, Milan, I wish I would have listened to you. I can't get this insurance anymore. I'm sick right now. So it resonates with me because I'm a people person. I'm a person that provides value. So the insurance, people complicate it. It's really a bag of money. I bring you a bag of money. If this happens, I bring your business a bag of money. If this happens, I bring your family a bag of money. So insurance business for me was a vehicle to give more. And that's why it started off as an insurance business, and it still is. However, I went the outer rims and say, wait a minute, I want to learn how to do family advising. So got my certificate from STEP, did that, read constantly. So the idea of the insurance business is it's a vehicle, and but it has to fit into the rest of your planning. Too often the products are sold just on the basis, here it is, and you go, no, wait a minute, here's how the whole picture fits in. So if you're looking for simply a sale, it's not exciting. It's the other stuff. Let me plan. Oh, you need a will. Oh, we need to get a shareholders agreement. Oh, we need to set up a holding company. Well, why don't you set up a trust and a holding company after trust? Will flow money around. So that's what excites me.
Mm-hmm.
And what I love is when a business owner, like last week, he says to me, he says, Milan, we need what you do, but not just in insurance planning. It's the other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And that excites me because it's giving back. And if I can help one business person or a professional to take care of themselves, and it's not just insurance planning, it's tax planning, minimize tax. How do I do that? Well, let's do this, all legal, because I'm not into the schemes and weems, not into that. It's got to be done right. Oh, I need a corporate lawyer. My buddy's a real estate lawyer. Here, what kind of a lawyer you're looking for? I have a number of them that I'm regularly doing work for. So I say, okay, I have an international issue. I have a business in US, one in Spain, one in India. Here, you need this lawyer to come in and assist you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And having that network that's extremely strong, I know who to bring.
Yeah, 100%. And like what you've said so far is like, a reason probably why you've been around for, like, your company's been around for so long. Like 35 years is no small feat. Like, the majority of businesses fail in the first 5, 10 years, 20 years. Getting past that is extremely hard to do, right? And so like what you're saying, right, is like, you don't just sell insurance. People, like, you have a big, like, you have a much bigger value add than just insurance with these connectors and things like that. And like, that's some great advice, because anybody can bring that into any other business, right? Of being a connector and being able to, facilitate those connections, which is huge, and just bringing extra value to the business you're already bringing value to already. So now moving on, as somebody who's been running a company for 35 years, which I think is absolutely incredible, that's a very long time.
Thank you.
So like, what advice do you have, right? Like, you must have been through ups and downs. You've been through like crashes. You've been through very hard times. Very broad question. I'll try and narrow it down a bit. But somebody that's listening, the majority of my audience is in the early 20s, 23 to 27. That's the sort of market I tailor to. People that are getting out of university, or people sort of making the first couple career switches early on in life, and maybe want to start their own business. What advice do you have to them, about running a company, about starting a company?
Thank you. This is another amazing question, and this is important. When starting a business, let's say you and your buddies all get together and say, hey, this will be fun. You can do this, you can do this, you can do this. I would caution you, number one, be careful who you go into business with, who those other shareholders are. What's their work ethic? What's their emotional? Are they going to add to you, or are they going to become a headache to you down the road? Be very careful who you bring in as partners and employees. Like some people say, fire slow, hire slow, hire fast, fire. Hire slow, fire fast. My biggest mistake was one of those was that I held on to people thinking, okay, just because I'm like this, you're going to be like that. It doesn't mean that. So where the problem comes into when you start a business, okay, you're starting a business, think about, okay, this is what I'm creating. Who's going to need this? Who's going to want to buy this? Too often people get off and go, like, I'm really good at this, but I can do this. It's not that simple. Set up your financing, because that'll kill you. If you go in it alone and no financing behind you, inevitably, until that first product goes out or a first whatever gets sold off your shelf, you can have no money. It's going to be stressful. Make sure you get your financing straight up. Make sure you get your legals straight up. And accounting, please get a proper accountant that's proactive. What I mean by that is he or she's going to give you advice beyond simply the numbers. They're out there, but they're not a majority. A lot of times it's, let me do your papers, year end, here it is. Well, what do you think? It's like looking at your rear view mirror. I say to people, why does an airplane not have a rear view mirror? Because it doesn't go backwards. So get an account, get professionals, get a professional team. It doesn't have to cost you a lot. There's a lot of young people that are starting their careers, legal, accounting, and so forth, that are good as well. Bring them into that. So financing, make sure you got the right players. Like the book said, got the right people on the bus. People on the bus are in the right seats, and get the wrong people off the bus. That is probably the biggest thing that you want to do.
Yeah. Yeah, no, 100%. And that's what I like, that I hear that a lot from a lot of entrepreneurs, right? Is like the most important part of your business is actually the people that you're going to be working with, right? And if you're surrounded by the wrong people, then your business isn't going to go that far. If you're surrounded by the right people, then that's literally like they're just literally jet fuel, and your business will just like take off. So now talking a little bit more in detail, expanding a business, right? Like when you first got going, how did you first get going, and when you jumped off and started your own firm, and then also how did you sort of expand it? Like that's something that I sort of see is like a lot of people get to a point where, they sort of reach the capacity of like they've hired people, but they're still doing a lot of the work themselves or micromanaging, right? Like how did you sort of overcome that and expand to, like a global level with your business?
Well, when you start off, the problem is you think you're always the best person to do everything. And that's a death knell. As they tell you, if you do any reading, they'll tell you having somebody that's able to do 80% of what you can do is often better than you doing the task. It's like one guy said, I became a general, not because of one reason. I didn't learn to type. There's people that do certain things in your life that are able to help. So what I did is I try to surround myself with competent people. My assistant, Catherine, has been with me for 26 years. And when she started, from where she came from, she wasn't even allowed to talk to clients. Now my clients call anybody, and she's amazing. But building a team is really hard. So the challenge part of it is getting the right people on the right bus in the right seats. I've had people come and go as advisors, and I tell them, I want to teach you, I want to do all this. Didn't work out, maybe partly because of me, because I'm expecting too much, part of them. So the key factor is you expand. We had an employee benefit division, group insurance, which is group insurance. We had an investment division, life division. I don't know how many people at one time, 30 people. More is not better. More is not better. So people say, well, I need this, I need this, I need this. I got to add staff. That's all bottom line. I have friends that have firms that are paying literally $80,000 a month on expenses, or every 2 weeks, actually, in one case. So that's a big nut to grind. So be absolutely sure as to who you want in your team. What are they contributing? And if they're not contributing, got to let them go. Even if you have your friends in the business and they're not contributing, let them go. Move on, because they're going to bury you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's sort of the same, right? Is like usually like going into business with your friends is right. Is like sometimes is not the best, and that's what I've heard a lot. Is because like you're your friend and you don't want to like you don't want to fire them, but they're not performing to what you sort of need for your business expectations. So yeah, it just becomes a tricky situation. I sort of want to ask now, people that are listening that are maybe wanting to start their own insurance company, what would you say, what do you like, what advice and knowledge do you have for them? Let's say they've been working at an insurance company for a couple of years now, or 4 or 5 years, or maybe a decade, and they want to sort of branch out and start their own business. But they're just interested to hear a little bit about like, how has somebody else done it and been very successful?
Well, I've done it. I started with London Life for 5 years, went on my own. If you're brand new, even existing, the key is to be with a company, associated with a company that has training. Training is everything, because you can get your license right now in 4 months. Write your exam, your license to sell insurance. So you're out there on the Queensway going, okay, what do I do from here? No, you want to be with an organization that's going to help you advance. So for myself, it's always been mentor, mentor, mentor. So if you, let's say you're brand new, well, you wouldn't be coming to us because I don't have the time to train you. So I may send you to an insurance company like even London Life, not even Canada Life now, used to be London, Desjardins, where they have good training systems, because that's the difference whether you're going to survive or not. So part of it is if you're starting brand new, go somewhere where there's training. If you're existing, then you say, okay, I've been in business for 5 years. I want to go my own like I did. There's a lot to learn. Associate with a managing general agency that has trainings where they're going to train you. They're going to give you help. They're going to give you assistance. For me, we represent currently 18 insurance companies. Why? Because one of my companies, they probably may not be aware of, is called Barrington Wealth Partners, a national firm. We have 38 partner firms. So we exchange information. Each firm is independent, but we have all these companies for you to buy insurance from. Like I'll apply on a client for 3 companies, same client. One says no, I don't want this person ever. Second one says there's 200% extra. Third one says standard premiums on the same person. So why do I chose the MGA? I am a shareholder of Barrington. It actually started in my room in Bahamas, where we started that company. Now it's very big. Now what we do is basically train. We have Zoom meetings now, education, and that's the difference. Like I'll have a partner call me up out of Halifax, Milan. I got this partner. This client. She's got MS, critical illness. How would I deal with this? I say, okay, Kelly, do this, this, this. So having a team behind you and having a tight team is the key. But if you're going on your own and just say, okay, I'm out there, good luck. So I'm mentoring an individual right now out of Montreal. He's got his own operation in Montreal. He's a young guy, very smart, very capable. So he asked me, would you mentor me? I said, yeah, we'll work together. And that's what I do. So I'll get an article, I'll fire it off to him. And I'll say, Christian, this is a conference, like there's one today at 3:00 on branding. one of the companies is having. I said, Christian, you may want to register for this. The better your support team is, the better chance you have surviving. But if you're going to be just selling a product, you became a commodity. Mm-hmm. Like you take courses, charter life underwriter, charter health planner, registered critical illness specialist. So that's what I did, because you got to educate yourself. But the better educated you are and applying what you learn, the better chance you have of survival and thriving. Because in my industry, the average length of time is about 2.5 years. That's the average length that an advisor stays in. They sell their family and friends, and so that's where that idea is. If I'm starting, go to a supplier that's going to give me training, mm-hmm. Or even if I'm established, because I've had people come to our firm, 20 years experience, and again, you think they would know stuff, but not necessarily.
Yeah, no, 100%. So it's so like the takeaways I sort of got from that was, build like you've been sort of talking a lot about, is building an excellent team, making sure you have great people you're surrounded by, and then also educating yourself and relentlessly educating yourself and getting smarter. And like you said, like one word I picked out there is like, you do all these courses, but that doesn't really mean like, at that, as soon as you're done all those courses, you're just like you said, you're a commodity, right? What else are you going to do to add value to, because there's thousands, there's tens of thousands of insurance agents out there doing the exact same thing, selling the exact same products as you, right? What are you going to do that's going to differentiate yourself from the competition. And, one thing that I saw with you, is that you just add so much extra value by just having this amazing Rolodex of people that you can just connect with. Right. Which I absolutely love. And I think it's one of the best things. And it's like, comes back to that old saying is like, your network is your net worth, right? The people are going
Yeah,
to.
it totally is. Absolutely. And let me give it a bit of a brief. Typically when COVID's not on, I'll go to a meeting with a client and the person I'm introducing them. The chance, and now my book talks about that, the chances of these things working out when that happens is huge. So I was on a Zoom call. A friend of mine owns Quantropy, James Wynn, which is high-tech security. Boom. I introduced him to somebody in Toronto. I was on a Zoom call. Did I need to be on a Zoom call? No, but it makes it easier to make that connection. So the idea is again, putting the people together is the key, and putting the right people. So if you said to me, Milan, I need this. And I said, okay, this person is going to give you exactly the advice I don't have to worry. So your Rolodex, as I call it, or your CRM is huge. I spoke to Ottawa U football program 3 years ago, I think it was. So I got in 100 players. And I wasn't talking about selling product, or I was talking about networking and relationships. So I had my book with me, and I wasn't selling the book. That's not the purpose. So I said to these guys, I said, what's your network? And you see the stares in their faces. They're going, what do you mean? I'm just here at university. Like, what am I doing? And I said, listen, in this room, you have 100 players, 100 relationships. Get to know these guys. My best friends are two guys, as far as guys that I have, is Nick Georgitsos and Boyd Young. One is a retired fireman. The other one is owns Astro Design. Well, I still have these friends. They started at university. So I was explaining to these football players, in this room, you have 100 potential relationships. Get to know all these players. Their parents are their parents may own a business. So often people, like I have people that'll call me for jobs. I have one we're doing work. I'm actually talking to him on Zoom later. We're doing work for. He goes, Milan, I'm back in Ottawa. And I don't know him. I've never met him, but I know his family. So I went, connect them to this person, connect to that person, connect them to an accounting firm in town that does high-tech work. So the idea is, you may think, or a person may think, well, I don't have a network. Really? Sit down, write down names of all the people you know. It'll blow your mind out.
Yeah, no, 100, like that's an amazing piece of advice. And like, I'm really interested in the real estate space, and I talked to quite a few real estate guys and girls, and they always say, like, let's say if they're needing to raise capital for, project, or, they're looking at, who already owns real estate, and are they selling real estate to try and find a deal, is like that. One of the most, like, it's so simple, right? Is just sit down and just write out, who do you know? What are their names and what do they do? Right. And then just go through that list, and you'll probably come out with some like huge, like, like great relationships, and also huge pieces of like value that you'll get from it. So we only have 10 minutes left, just because, I've got something else quickly. Last question I just want to ask. So I think this would be a pretty interesting question to ask. So if you were 20 again, right, or you just got out of university and you couldn't start a business in insurance, or what you've already done, what new business would you start in today's age, with the internet and everything else?
Wow, there's so much out there right now. People are offering services from India, from England, from all over the world. Here, we'll do your marketing, we'll make your phone calls, we'll do your LinkedIn profile. It's very challenging. First of all, I would suggest start off with doing a test for yourself. What are you suited for? It's the same thing. My daughter has her own business as well as my son, actually. So at this point, so I said to her, I said, Carolyn, take a look at that aptitude test, that DISC profile. What are you suited for? Because listen, I can say, well, I like nuclear science. Well, I have no background for nuclear science. So you say, what is my strength? If your strengths are people skills, look at the marketing opportunities. Look at marketing opportunities with companies that do great training. It is huge. So if you have the eye of the tiger, if you want to grind, if you want to work, sales is the way to go. By the way, 80% of the highest earners in the United States are salespeople.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to have a tough skin. You got to have a tough skin because you're going to be told no, people are not going to respond, whatever. But 40 years in the business myself now, just go, yeah, okay, no problem. Wasn't a fit. So the idea for a young person, the key right now is a guy came to my door. He plays junior hockey, came from Russia to here. And so I had him in the office, not just to talk to him. He just called, he was delivering pizza. He's playing junior hockey. So he says to me, he says, Milan, I listened to what you said. So he goes, I need this and this. I said, well, call this lawyer. He's going to introduce you to this. Do this. He goes, I'm going back to Russia, and I want to open up a business based on what you told me. Often between you and the parents will have their son or daughter that just graduated, have them talk to me. Like one guy says, oh, well, I'm thinking of doing this. Well, it's been 6 years he's been working with his father, doing an amazing job. When we had this conversation, he did not want to do that. He wasn't thinking of that. So the idea is, if you're going to get into the business, first of all, get into the business where there's a demand. Then second, do it better than anybody else does. And third, work, and work smart. And also, who do you need in your network to help you? If, let's say you have a small business, create a board of advisors. People say, well, this guy's not going to want to give me my time. Are you kidding? People love to help. We're people generally, good people are helpers like I am. I consider myself, and anybody will tell you that. So the idea is, say, listen, John, Carol, whoever, would you mind being on my board of advisors? Maybe meet once a month or have a telephone conversation, because that's the key. When you start off, as I did when I was in business, I had a university degree, blah, 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 and all the rest of it, but I didn't know anything. Sure, I knew how to sell insurance, but I didn't know how the business should be structured, and I didn't know who to go to. Mm-hmm. That was the problem. I can tell you, cost me millions, like real millions, for not having the right people in the right seats. So the idea is, create that environment. Okay, here it is. I want to create this business. Is there a demand? Yes, it is. Is somebody providing it now? Yes, they are. How can I do it better? How am I going to brand myself? How am I going to market myself? So those are all parts of the business, because the business is also evolving. I started TK Financial, and then I went to Orbis, which is fee for service consulting. Why? Because clients were asking me, Milan, I wish I would have known this when I was selling my company. I wish I would have known this when I was setting up my company. So Orbis became as part of the fact that there's a demand for it. Mm-hmm. And if you're starting, listen, if you're just starting a business to create a job for yourself, don't. Go drive a bus. You leave the bus at the terminal at a certain hour, you go home, you got no headache. Because business is not 9 to 5. Mm-hmm. But if you like challenges, if you want to do more, that's what drives me. I'm older, obviously, and people say, "How long have you been doing this?" Forever. Why? Because I love what I do.
No, like 100%. And I always like, usually the people that I see like in the business world that are running their company and they're like in their 60s or 70s, are still running their business and haven't retired or something. I'm like, that person got it right, because they don't need to retire, because what they do, they already feel like they're retired. They enjoy what they do. Right. They love it so much. They have so much passion for it. And I've had a few of those. I've been fortunate enough to have a few conversations like people like you who are at that age, who have been doing business for 35, 40 years. And, talking to one guy, he was just like, he's like, I'm never going to retire. He says what am I going to do? Go sit down and watch TV? He's like, nah, he's like, screw that. I'm going to go, continue to build my business, continue to maybe start a new business, help people do all this type of stuff. But yeah. So right off the top, I want to say thank you so much, Milan, for coming on the show. It's been absolutely a pleasure having you on. You giving your your great advice, everything that you sort of learned over those years of business. Where can people find out more about you? About your book, about your companies, or if they just want to sort of reach out to you, ask a question, or mentorship or anything like that.
Perfect. Glad to answer. My two webs are Inner Orbis, INNERORBIS.ca, and TK Financial, tkfinancial.ca. The phone number is 613-728-7030. Even if they have a question, if I can help them in any way, whatever they're doing, get them to give me a call. I do that on a regular basis, and actually it's fun.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for coming on the show.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And I hope your audience gets value that they can take on in their life and do better.